Hey everyone, Will Brink here, and welcome to another one of my amateurish watch reviews. So I'm putting that out front that this is not going to be a review with great photography and high production values of the watch up close on video for people to see and get a good sense of it. What I am going to do is link below this video another video that has all of that. Is an excellent review. Is actually was sort of the review that put me over the top to try this watch that I'm going to review briefly. And so to give him that credit, if you want to go see much higher quality production and see the watch up close and all that to get a better sense of it. But I did look at other videos and read reviews and stuff, and I found his was the most compelling as to why I finally decided to try this watch. So to summarize up a little bit, however, so I'm not new to watches. I've been a watch enthusiast for 30 plus years. I did another video prior to this. I'll link below, sort of updating where I'm coming from, what my experience with watches is. That I consider myself more of an enthusiast than a collector. I think there's a difference between those two. I reviewed a watch called the Spinnaker Picard. Which I thought was an outstanding watch for the value. Just to summarize that, if you want to check that out. So I'm not new to reviews in general, as anybody who's been following this page knows, but I have been recently sort of going outside my normal topics for reviews, which my normal topics, of course, are going to be, anti-aging and exercise and nutrition and supplements and all that. So I have been recently, this last year, I kind of wanted to start doing reviews on topics that are not normal for me. So this shouldn't seem as out of the blue as it may seem at first that I'm going to be doing a watch review. Maybe as much for the people that follow this page that trust my opinion on things, but maybe it'll bring in some new people that will also be interested in what I have to offer. So not being new to watches is true. However, I am new to micro brands. I've been keeping an eye on micro brands, and I'm not a new adopter of stuff. I tend to kind of sit back and let beta testers of the world try stuff first, whether it's tech, whether it's technology, whether it's phones. I always get last year's phone, whether it's audio stuff. I'm not an early adopter of tech in general or just anything in general. I like to let them mature a little bit. So I really felt that the micro brand market had clearly matured, if not even a little more so than I waited, but I was busy with other stuff. So I am new to the micro brand world. A couple of names that kept popping up to me was Spinnaker was one that kept coming up as a good brand, and I really liked that design they came up with. And another one that comes on my radar has been Wise, WISE, and they seem to be consistently come up as a company that makes an excellent product for the value of what you're spending. And they came out with a model. What they had mostly was, pretty straightforward stuff that really wasn't on my radar, my interest, but they came up with a model fairly recently called the Adamascus. And the Adamascus is more of a premium product that I think they've really outdone themselves on the Adamascus. So the Adamascus is basically still technically a dive watch, but it's more what I would term maybe a dress dive watch. I mean, it's very thin, especially for a dive watch. I mean, it's not thin for a dress watch, but it is very thin for a dive watch. And I will put, again, the stats will be below. So when you say how thin is it, Will, and get on my case, I'll put all that below. I'll show it, of course, in a minute. But they made so the Adamascus is a dive watch. Let me see. I'll just give you a quick view, and then we'll talk a little more about this. Hopefully, I can get this guy. So, all right, a little shiny. Okay, hopefully that kind of gives you a sense. I know this is not great. Oh man. All right, I know. Terrible job. Watch the video below. So the Adamascus, visually, the face, it looks a little bit similar, homage-ish to an Omega, some Omegas, or Seiko, but definitely not a knockoff of any of those. Has a lot of its own unique stuff going on that I'll get into in a minute. And, as far as watches in general, but especially dive watches, there's just really only so many variations of the way a watch can look as a dive watch and still be a dive watch. So I really don't. I think at this point, almost everything's going to be somewhat of an homage to something else within reality. There's just only so many original designs and stuff you can come up with. But again, I have to give Wise credit in that it is not A lot of micro brands pretty much made their name by just pretty much knockoffs or homages that were, very, very close to knockoffs. And I think Wise has, in this particular watch, seems to have gone a different route. So what makes this watch special? And makes it, let's say, call it a premium watch. I mean, or in the micro, space. It's about $600. So it's not inexpensive for a micro brand. And actually that is an introductory price. Supposedly it's going to go to about $800. So, why is that? Well, for starters, one thing that Wise uses is on their case is 904L steel. And let's see if we can get some shine on this. Again, I don't know if you can see how shiny that is. So what is the deal with 904L steel? 904L steel is basically viewed as a premium steel, right or wrongly. We'll talk about that in a second. But the brand that is sort of universally associated with 904L steel is Rolex. So Rolex uses 904L pretty much exclusively on their stainless steel watches. They've been pretty much they've been known as the watch, been using 904 for a long, long time. There are other brands that use 904, not a lot of other brands, but other brands that do use it. I know Ball has a model with 904. I think Seiko has a few models with 904, but it's not that common. I mean, let me just put it to you that way. And I believe it's very uncommon in a micro brand. So what makes 904 steel, quote unquote, premium? Well, some of it's, marketing. 904 is a bit more corrosion resistant to 316. Now, 316, if pretty much all the other stainless steel watches you're going to see on the market are made of 316. 316 is sort of the standard bearer of stainless steel. But when you say a more corrosion resistance, what does that mean? I mean, because 316 steel, they're made of divers watches. They are immersed in salt water all the time, and you don't see them corroding. So when we're talking about corrosion resistance, it's probably not a practical reality and real world problem differences that you would experience any sort of corrosion. You're probably talking about corrosion resistance in terms of like dropping the watch in a vat of acid. And 904 would probably be more resistant to corrosion than 316. But on a practical level, it probably doesn't matter. But it is one of the things about 904L. Sorry, I just combined 316 and 904. Anyway, so that's one of the things about 904. Other claim about 904 is that it's a bit more expensive than 316. It is, but the reality again appears to be on the scale that you're making, a watch case. The difference in prices is pretty minimal. I don't know what they're going for at the moment. Somebody who more expertise than myself, I'm sure, can weigh in. But my understanding is that the difference is not considerable. Now, if you were to scale up, if you were to make an entire car out of 904 versus 316, probably the difference in cost would start to add up enough to be prohibitive. But when you're talking about watch cases and stuff, the added cost is not a lot. It's not a lot that would make a big difference in how much a company could sell it for per se. The other claim, which mostly comes from Rolex, but other claim is that 904 is more difficult to work with and you need special equipment and special machines and so forth. My understanding again, that doesn't appear to be the case, but at the very least, it's a real exaggeration. So I wouldn't make a big deal out of that. The one thing about 904 that is not debatable, that is not controversial and so forth, is that 904, because it has a higher chromium and nickel content, is a much higher luster than 316. It has a much higher luster. It's shinier. It takes it also has a certain color to it that's a little different than 316. If you've ever noticed, that maybe you noticed at Rolex, just for whatever reason, you couldn't put your finger on why Rolex just sort of seems to be a more lustrous, shiny watch than other watches you've seen. Well, that's the difference. And that part is not debatable. Like I say, the chromium content and the nickel content of 904 makes it a much more lustrous, has a nice color to it too. Now, some people don't like that. Now, honestly, I had a Rolex Yachtmaster that I honestly for me, it was just too blingy. It was just too shiny. I think personally, my personal judgment is I think 904 looks really nice on dress watches. I think it's a good choice for dress watches. That's personal choice. But basically, 316 is going to be again a little more matte. Obviously, a lot of times it's intentionally matte, but It does not, nothing beats 904L to take on a luster and a shine. You'll see the other video if you want good close-up. I could try to hold it up to the camera, but I think it would not going to look all that great. So that's one thing about the Adamascus. It's the thinness. It's using, has really good loom, professional quality loom. It has an open case back. Hopefully you can see that again, which they've done a nice job on that. They also, they also used an upgraded Miyota high beat movement in it. They didn't throw, the cheapest possible. Come on, camera, focus, camera, focus. Anyway, they did not throw in, your least expensive Seiko movement, which is not to say those are bad movements. I think people really need to get a handle on saying negative things about some of those Seiko workhorse movements. Yes, they're inexpensive, but they are utterly reliable and well built and will last longer than you will and all that. However, just FYI, to give Wise a lot of credit, like I say, they put a high beat quality Miyota, higher quality Miyota movement. You get a very nice, because of that high beat movement, you get a very nice sweep of the second hand. It's really nice and smooth and clean versus sort of that tick, 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 tick thing you get on lower beat 3 hertz type stuff. So it's fairly priced. It's it's a movement you're more likely to see in a watch of this price. It comes with 2 straps. A good, nice leather strap comes with a high quality rubber strap. The packaging and the boxing is really outstanding. I'm not even going to show it to you. Look at the other video. Very nice wooden box and all that. They really go the extra mile. They even put in extra pins. They put in even a tool for changing out your straps. They really go the extra mile across the board to give you a sense of a quality upscale product here. It looks really good on the wrist. I'm going to try it. I don't know if it's going to help you guys, but I've actually I'm not a big dress watch person, frankly. So this to me is now, I think it's going to kind of be my dress watch, in that this will certainly fit over a shirt or a jacket or what have you. Finally, I don't think we can see it on this. You saw it on the picture that comes in with the video, but on the face of it, they have put a really, what I think makes the step that takes this Wise into its own category, its own thing, is there is a pattern on the face that is really, really nice and really unique. I got it in blue. It's a really dark blue. It's hard to pick up on a camera, which I like, because depending on the light, you got to see it in just the right light. It comes out. It's not one of those patterns where it's sort of always in your face. And it's always like, look at me, I've got this, wave pattern or whatever that you see all the time. What I actually really like about it is, depending on the light, like if you're looking at it straight on in a certain light, you won't see it. And if you catch just the right light with that 904 steel, with the indices that are really well differentiated, and that face, it really just jumps out at you. I'm going to try to get this, see if I can move it around a little bit. Okay, let's. Oh, sorry, I got to do everything backwards. Okay, can you see that? See, everything has to go in reverse. Okay, I think you can catch. See the design on the face. Now, if you see, if I rotate it, it basically disappears. Now, notice how that 9L steel is just really, really shines. And I will say, there you go. Now, hopefully, now you can see. There we go. Okay, I know this is very amateurish stuff, people. I'm perfectly aware of this, so don't be mad at me. But I will tell you that in the right light, I worked the other night out to a restaurant, and sort of a dimmer light, sort of from an angle where I think another watch would sort of disappear into that light. The Adamascus picks up light, especially sort of light from that sort of more subtle light that isn't just sort of beaming down at you like I am in the office, or sunlight, and really just jumps out. I gotta say, the watch does jump out. And that 904 steel and that face, that the parts of the face, like I say, kind of reflect the loom and so forth, really does a nice job. I got to say, it is every bit as nice, if not nicer in person, than you'd expect. I will say, of course, the ratcheting movement of the bezel is very nice. I'll do it, but I mean, the other video does a good job. To me, it always seems, I don't know, just sort of a waste of time, because you got to see this for yourself. But it's very, very tight. It's very, very fine. Let's see if we can. Yeah, the only thing, hear it? Very, very tight. There's no play. The only criticism I have that everybody else has, it's very tight. You really got to, I mean, if it's not on the wrist, I mean, you really got to fight with it. There we go. Now, it probably loosens up over time. Okay. But I've had, I've had expensive watches. I've had medium priced watches, cheap watches. And I will say that the ratcheting on this guy is as good as anything I've owned, including my two-door, including my JLC and so forth. So again, I don't get real wrapped up in things like that. I mean, as long as it's well done and it's not like wobbling and, obviously poorly fitted, then I'd be upset. But I don't personally, I'm not the kind of person who gets like that worked up on the ratcheting and sits there and compares ratcheting. I will say it's very well done. It's very tight. It's on bearings, and the only negative I would say is that it's very, very tight. And I assume probably say with a little bit of work. But the fit and the finish of the watch all around, it just has a lot of obvious touches to it that shows they went the extra distance. The crown is very nice. It's very smooth. What else can I say about the Ys? The other thing I would say is that it's a dive watch, so it's a 200-meter rated dive watch. Now, a dive watch that thin with an open case back to get a 200-meter rating, again, that tells me that they took their design and engineering of this watch seriously. I'm not aware of that many dive watches that are as thin as this with an open case back that are going to get you that 200-meter rating. There may be some, and please, if you know of one, post that in the comments below, because I'd be interested. But I was impressed to see, like I say, this watch is as thin as it is with an open case back and still getting that 200-meter rating. I don't think there's a lot of that. I mean, here is the two-door, and that's a 200-meter rated dive watch. Look at the difference between the thickness, and that's okay. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, now that's the difference between these two guys. That's a 200-meter rated dive watch with a closed steel back, no less. That's not an open back either. So I have to say, I think that Wise has kind of outdone themselves here. To finish off, also as far as the face, I got it in blue. It's a very dark blue. It's almost black, but they make it in a multitude of colors and a couple of other designs. And I have to say, I would not be surprised if I don't actually end up buying another one at some point with a different face. They have one in a sort of red starburst thing that they just came out with, which is, I have to say, I like this watch so much. I may even end up with a second one. Wouldn't surprise me. So, all right, that's my review. I hope it's okay for you guys just to just get casual discussion we're having. And if you're interested in it, it sounds good, I would definitely watch the video I link below. Stats are all below as far as the actual movement that they're using, all the materials, all the the lug distances and all that. Case size, I think it's 40, but you saw it on the wrist. To me, it's about the right size. But I'll give you all that below. I just find that people sit and sort of go through specific stats, which anybody can look up, are kind of boring. I'd rather just hear their subjective opinion on how it wears. So, hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button. This is brought to you obviously by Alpha Joe. Tastes good, good for you, feels good. I call that a trifecta win, and I'll see you guys all on the brink zone.